Joining us now from southern Ukraine is France 24's Luke Shrago. Luke, you were in Kherson yesterday as the president visited. Just tell us about what you saw.
Well, for the time being, for the international press at least, access to Kherson is still being tightly regulated. It is extremely dangerous there because there's a massive amount of unexploded ordnance that's been left behind by the Russians. So the only real way in for the time being is to go on press buses. Now, you could tell the moment when we crossed the front line on the way to Kherson, the Ukrainian forces prevented the Russians from advancing for months on end. And you could see the massive amounts of damage that had been done, destroyed bridges on the motorway, shelled petrol stations, burned out tanks and wreckage strewn everywhere. We detoured through a village on the way through to bypass one of these bridges. And even while people are now starting to return, smiling people waving at us with flags in these small farming villages, small children happy to see us coming through. A sad sign of the cost of this war is the crops still rotting in the field because they just haven't been able to get it in to harvest them during the fighting. But Kherson itself, people still very much celebrating the retreat of Russian forces from the city after well over 8.5 months of Russian occupation. Despite the fact you've got no water, no heating, no electricity, and very, very spotty communications in the city's Freedom Square has become almost this impromptu rallying point. It's the only place where people can generally get hold of charging stations. They've got generators there. They've got a cell phone tower that's been set up for people to be able to try and communicate outside the world. Now, authorities are trying to bring in humanitarian aid. They're trying to get it in from the rest of the country. That's very much a priority for them to get Kherson back on its feet. But this overwhelming sense of joy is overriding almost everything else, almost to the point of being in shock, I might say. But it's also the case that you're now starting to get these stories coming out. We spoke to a lot of people on Monday, including one woman who was sitting there going through piles of keys. We asked her what she was doing, and she said, "These are the keys for the apartments of my dead friends. I don't know what to do with them." We were almost in shock to see things like this. You're hearing about the kidnappings and abductions that happened under the Russian occupation, with people now slowly starting to come to terms with things.
And what are we expecting the Ukrainian military to do next, Luke?
Well, Volodymyr Zelensky has said it himself during a surprise visit. Ukraine is ready for peace, and Kherson, it's the beginning of the end of the war. He went further on Tuesday, saying that it was like D-Day, an inflection point on the road to victory. Now, for Volodymyr Zelensky and Ukrainian authorities, peace has to be on Ukraine's terms. It is a matter of Russian forces withdrawing from Ukraine. However, they are far from defeated. They have pulled out of Kherson, but they are digging in on the opposite side of the Dnipro River, and they still make claims on massive swathes of Ukrainian territory. They really want to push forward, but in one sign of how anxious they may be, we are starting to see and get reports of Russian troops being demoralized. And to the east of Kherson in Kakhovka district, we've seen Russian-appointed authorities pulling out, beginning to fear the possibility for Ukraine to try and push its momentum and move forward. Particularly elsewhere in the country, you could look east in Donbass to the city of Bakhmut, where Russia has been trying to grind forward for months. Zelensky said that fighting there was like hell on earth. Now, it does show that the momentum still very much is on Ukraine's side, and it's intending to push this forward. It really wants to try and ensure that it can launch operations forward, certainly into other areas such as occupied Zaporizhia province, and indeed potentially Crimea. As we were on our way out of Kherson on Monday, we saw what seemed to be a HIMARS salvo firing not too far away from the road in the direction of the south.
Luke Shrago reporting there. Thank you.